let me tell you something that most men don't want to hear. You can give a woman everything. Your time, your presence, your energy, even your love. But if you're not giving her the right thing, the thing her soul actually longs for, she'll still drift away. You could plan the perfect date, say all the right words, show up on time, even sacrifice your own needs for hers. And one day, you wake up to a cold text, a distant gaze, or a conversation that starts with, "I just don't feel the same anymore." And you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? I gave her everything. Here's the brutal truth, brother. She didn't leave because of how much you gave. She left because of what you gave. And more importantly, what you didn't. This video isn't about blaming women. It's about freeing men from a painful illusion. Because you were probably raised on the same belief most of us were, that if you just tried hard enough, if you were good enough, she'd stay. That effort equals love. That consistency is all she really wants. But let's get real. If effort was all it took, nice guys would never get ghosted. Hardworking husbands wouldn't wake up to cold marriages. And men who do everything right wouldn't be left for men who seem to do nothing at all. So what gives? The answer is this. Women don't fall in love with your effort. They fall in love with the way your presence makes them feel. Let that sink in. She doesn't remember the exact brand of necklace you gave her. She remembers how you looked at her when you gave it. She doesn't replay the checklist of how many texts you sent. She replays how seen, how safe, how emotionally touched she felt in your presence. Because women are not moved by logic. They're moved by emotion. This is not a flaw, it's a design. The feminine craves emotional experience. And your effort, no matter how pure, can fall flat if it doesn't land emotionally. You ever notice how some guys barely try, yet women are drawn to them like gravity? And others, who are kind, thoughtful, and dependable, get friend-zoned or left confused? It's not random. It's not about looks. And no, it's not about playing games either. It's about emotional impact. When you walk into the room, do you shift the atmosphere? Do you lead with grounded presence? Or do you walk on eggshells hoping not to mess up? Do your words cut through noise with calm clarity? Or do you over-explain, over-apologize, trying to prove your worth? Because here's the truth. A man can say, "I love you," 100 times, and it mean nothing. But another man can say nothing at all and she'll feel everything. Why? Because love is not just expressed through action. It's communicated through energy, through presence, through the invisible language of calm strength, emotional clarity, and unwavering masculine grounding. Now, don't get me wrong, effort matters, but only when it's channeled through the right frame. Effort without emotional awareness is just noise. So what does she really want? That's what we're breaking down in this video. 12 things women deeply desire from a man beyond effort, beyond appearances, beyond performance. These are not tricks, not cheesy pickup lines, and definitely not about trying harder. They're about being deeper. Because at the end of the day, she doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a man who knows himself, who leads with presence, not pressure, who listens not just with his ears, but with his full attention. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but still losing, stick around. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing what actually works. Number 1. Effort doesn't create desire. Let's talk about something that nobody teaches you growing up as a man. From the time you're a boy, the message is drilled into your head. Work harder, try more, give more, and eventually, you'll be rewarded. That mindset might get you a promotion. It might help you win a game, build a business, or even impress your boss. But when it comes to women, that strategy backfires. You see, in romance, effort doesn't equal attraction. Desire doesn't grow just because you showed up with flowers. paid the bill, or texted her good morning 5 days in a row. In fact, here's the paradox. The more effort you put in too early, the more unattractive you may appear. Let that sink in. Now I know that sounds harsh, especially if you're the kind of man who leads with his heart. You want to show her you care. You want her to feel appreciated. You think, if I just show her how much I'm willing to invest, she'll see my value. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Too much effort, especially at the beginning, doesn't come across as strength. It comes across as neediness. It tells her, I need your validation to feel worthy. It says, I don't trust my own value, so I'll earn it through action. And women, especially emotionally intelligent, feminine women, can sense that from a mile away. Now don't get me wrong, effort matters. But timing and intention matter more. See, women aren't attracted to logic. They're not moved by checklists or consistency the way men are. They're drawn to energy, to presence, to the mystery of a man who doesn't need their attention, but chooses to give his. To a man who leads not with effort, but with grounded confidence. Ever seen a guy who barely says a word, barely lifts a finger, and yet women are leaning in, laughing, chasing him? And meanwhile, the guy who's always available, always giving, always trying, gets overlooked? That's not luck. That's polarity. Attraction lives in tension. And when you remove that tension by over-efforting, over-explaining, over-investing, you kill the spark before it even starts. Ask yourself this. Have you ever chased a woman so hard that once she finally gave you attention, the energy felt off? Or maybe she pulled away just when you thought things were going well? Yeah, that's the emotional feedback loop no one tells you about. Because masculine energy is built on stillness, not striving. It's built on leading from abundance, not desperation. And when a man is solid in himself, he doesn't need to prove his worth. His presence does that for him. Women are biologically wired to respond to a man's groundedness, his ability to stay calm in chaos, his unwillingness to beg for love or chase validation. That doesn't mean being cold. That means being centered. It means giving from overflow, not emptiness. So if you've ever felt like the more you gave, the more distant she became, it wasn't your kindness that pushed her away. It was the weight behind it. Because when your giving comes from insecurity, it doesn't feel like love. It feels like pressure. Here's the shift. Stop trying to convince her that you're worthy. Start being the man who knows he is. Because real attraction isn't earned through effort. It's evoked through essence. And when you tap into that, you stop chasing and you start attracting. Number 2, women crave emotion, not just presence. Let me ask you something, brother. Have you ever given a woman your full attention? Been there for her, texted her good morning, checked in, showed up? You thought you were doing everything right. You were present. You were available. You were dependable. And yet, she still pulled away. She still seemed distant. She still said those 5 words that haunt so many men. I just don't feel it. And it leaves you confused, hurt. You wonder, what else could I possibly give her? But here's the truth that will set you free. Women don't fall in love with the man who gives the most. They fall in love with the man who makes them feel the most. Read that again. Because this is where most men miss the mark. You think she wants more of your time, your attention, your consistency. And sure, those things matter eventually. But what she craves first, what lights her up inside, is emotional stimulation. Not logic, not routine, not predictability, but feeling. She wants to feel alive around you, inspired, curious. She wants that spark of, what is it about this man that I can't quite figure out? That feeling of emotional depth she can't pin down but can't stop thinking about either. See, women don't remember the dates you planned on time. They remember how you looked at them like they were the only woman in the room. They don't crave perfection. They crave polarity, that magnetic tension between grounded masculine energy and her wild, expressive feminine. If you give her reliability without emotional resonance edge, he'll get bored. If you give her attention without mystery, she'll feel smothered. If you give her presence without passion, she'll eventually drift. And I'm not saying you need to be dramatic or emotionally unstable. I'm saying you need to understand the emotional landscape of attraction. You're not just a man standing in front of her. You're an experience. Your words? They're either creating emotion or they're being forgotten. Your energy? It's either sparking curiosity or signaling safety with no excitement. Your presence? It's either commanding attention or blending into the background of predictability. This is why men who are slightly mysterious, who don't always say everything, who lead with depth and grounded power, they linger in her mind. It's why the guy who can sit in silence yet still make her feel seen ends up being the one she obsesses over. Because women aren't just listening to what you say, they're feeling who you are. So ask yourself, when you're with her, are you bringing emotional color to the moment? Or are you just showing up and checking the good guy boxes? Are you leading with intention, or are you simply available? Are you sparking her curiosity, or have you become completely predictable? Predictability might win comfort, but it rarely wins passion, because desire thrives in contrast. In a world where everything is instant, easy, and accessible, mystery becomes magnetic. So no, she doesn't need a man who's always there. She needs a man whose presence she feels long after he's gone. She needs a man who's not just reliable, but deep, not just consistent, but evocative. That's what makes her stay. That's what makes her chase you for a change. So, brother, if you want to keep her heart, stop trying to be perfect. Start being present in a way that moves her. Create moments that stir something inside her. Be the storm and the stillness, the safe place and the unknown edge. Be the man she doesn't just see, but one she can feel. Number 3, the nice guy is a safe place, not the chosen one. Let's break one of the most painful illusions men grow up believing, that being the nice guy will win her heart. You're polite. You respect her space. You don't argue. You show her you're different. You think, if I treat her better than the rest, she'll choose me. But time and time again, she doesn't. She talks to you when she's sad, vents to you when things go wrong, maybe even leans on you emotionally when the guy she actually wants disappears again. And deep down, you feel it. You've become her safe place, but not her desire. You're the man she trusts, but not the man she fantasizes about. And here's why that hurts so much. Because you're doing everything right, according to what the world told you. You're kind, you're consistent, you're available, but you're still invisible. Not because your kindness is wrong, but because it's incomplete. Let me say it clearly. Kindness without strength is forgettable. Compassion without boundaries is manipulable. And a man who is soft without being solid becomes a backup plan at the first choice. See, women do want to feel safe. They absolutely crave emotional security. But here's the twist. Safety alone doesn't create desire. It's the combination of emotional safety and emotional tension that makes a woman feel fully alive. She wants a man who protects her but can also challenge her. A man who listens deeply but also leads with vision. A man who holds space but doesn't lose himself trying to please. The nice guy often confuses approval, seeking with love. He thinks if he just says yes enough times, never argues, always agrees, he'll be loved more. But in reality, he's slowly erasing his masculine edge. And attraction dies in that space. Because attraction isn't built in comfort zones. It's born in polarity, in the friction between masculine clarity and feminine expression, in the dance between assertiveness and empathy, between strength and softness. And the nice guy often leans so far into softness, he forgets how to stand firm. Ask yourself this. Have you ever let things slide because you didn't want to rock the boat? Held back your truth just to avoid conflict? Said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? And then wondered why she lost interest? It's because she didn't feel you. Not your truth, not your depth, not your fire. She felt your compliance, not your core. You became predictable, comfortable, unthreatening. And over time, desire faded not because she didn't appreciate you, but because she couldn't feel polarized by you. Here's what women actually want. A man who is kind but won't be walked on. A man who can listen but isn't afraid to say what needs to be said. A man who holds her with gentleness but isn't afraid to let go when something violates his values. That's the man who gets chosen, not just kept around. Because in the end, it's not about being nice. It's about being real, being grounded, being unshakably you with or without her approval. So if you've ever felt like you're the guy she turns to when it's convenient, but not the man she chases with her heart, it's time to stop trying to be safe and start learning how to be solid. The man who leads with kindness and power, he doesn't ask to be chosen. He becomes unforgettable. Number 4. Seeking validation makes you weaker. Let's get real for a second, brother. One of the most subtle ways a man loses his power is by needing to be seen, needing to be praised, needing to be validated. Now, don't get me wrong. We all want to feel appreciated. We all want to be recognized. But when that need becomes the driving force behind your actions, you've already handed your masculinity over. Because the moment you start chasing validation, you stop leading from strength and start performing for approval. You ever been on a date and found yourself fishing for compliments? Maybe you dropped subtle hints about your job, your car, your achievement shopping. She'd say, "Wow, that's impressive." Maybe you told her how loyal or respectful you are, waiting for that little verbal reward to feel seen. It sounds harmless, but underneath that is insecurity. And here's the thing. Women can feel that. They may not be able to explain it in words, but they sense when a man is confident versus when he's trying to appear confident. They know when your compliments are genuine versus when they're carefully crafted to make them like you back. Why does this matter? Because feminine energy is drawn to certainty, to presence, to a man who's grounded in who he is, with or without applause, not someone constantly reaching for affirmation to feel enough. When you're constantly seeking validation, you're telling the world, "I don't know my own value unless someone else confirms it." And that mindset kills attraction. Not just romantic attraction, but respect, too. You don't have to be arrogant, but you do have to be solid. A truly grounded man isn't cold or indifferent. He just isn't ruled by praise or wounded by silence. He doesn't ask, "Am I enough?" He decides, "I am," whether you see it or not. Think about this. Who's more powerful? The man who needs the room to love him in order to speak confidently? Or the man who speaks his truth regardless of how the room reacts? The first is a performer. The second is a presence. And when you become that presence, you stop needing to prove anything. Women can feel that shift. Because now, you're not trying to impress her. You're inviting her to feel you, to experience the calm strength of a man who knows who he is. And when you speak, she listens not because your words are flashy, but because your energy is real. So here's the hard truth. If you're constantly wondering how she feels about you, if your mood rises and falls based on her approval, you're not grounded yet. But the good news? You can change that. Not by pretending not to care, but by learning to build your value from the inside out. Start by asking yourself, would I still do this even if no one noticed? Would I still say this even if no one praised me for it? Would I still stand by this even if it made me less liked? That's where real power begins. In doing what's right, not what's popular. In showing up with character, not performance. In being the kind of man who walks with quiet confidence because his self-worth isn't rented, it's owned. And once you stop seeking validation, you become the kind of man women feel safe around, but also the kind they respect, admire, and desire. Because you're no longer asking for approval. You are the approval. Number 5. Mystery is more attractive than consistency. Let's challenge a belief that's been fed to modern men over and over. Just be consistent and she'll stay. Show up every day. Text her good morning like clockwork. Always be available. Always say the right thing. Sounds solid on paper, right? But in reality, over-consistency without mystery kills attraction. Now, hear me out. Consistency does matter. It builds trust. It creates a sense of safety. But safety without excitement, predictability without polarity, that creates boredom. Because while consistency builds the foundation, mystery keeps the fire alive. Women don't just want stability. They want sensation. The thrill of not knowing what's coming next. The spark of unpredictability. The feeling that you're not fully hers yet and she's still discovering new parts of you. It's not about playing games. It's about understanding polarity, dynamics, the push and pull that fuels desire. She doesn't want a robot who shows up the same way every day. She wants a man with layers, depth, and a life that doesn't revolve around her. Ask yourself this. Are you consistent or are you predictable? Are you present or are you just performing a routine? Because when she knows exactly how you'll text, what you'll say, when you'll show up, and what you'll talk about, you become emotionally flat. Safe but not sexy. Reliable but not riveting. Think about the men women are magnetized by. It's not always the richest or the best looking. It's the man who keeps her curious, who gives her enough presence to feel connected, but never so much that she stops wondering about him. This is the power of masculine mystery. It's about holding something back, not in a deceptive way, but in a disciplined way. You're not oversharing. You're not always accessible. You're not laying your entire soul on the table in the first few dates. Because the moment she feels like she has you completely figured out, the mystery dies. And when mystery dies, so does anticipation. And anticipation is what makes the feminine lean in. You ever notice how some men say less, yet hold more attention? They don't rush to fill silence. They don't post every move online. They don't reveal every thought. Yet women chase them not because they're arrogant, but because they're interesting. There's power in restraint. There's magnetism in ambiguity. And there's respect earned when you don't give yourself away too easily. So if you're always the first to respond, always the one reaching out, always predictable in your rhythm and emotions, ask yourself, are you too available? Because masculine energy isn't just about showing up. It's about being centered in your own world and letting her enter it, not become the center of it. Let her wonder where you are sometimes. Let her miss you. Let her feel the subtle tension of not knowing everything yet. And when you do show up, be fully present. Let her feel your depth. But don't give away the entire map. Because a man with mystery is a man who stays interesting. Remember this. Predictability wins loyalty, but mystery wins desire. The man who balances both? He's not just someone she loves. He's someone she can't stop thinking about. Number 6. She wants to be challenged, not worshipped. Let's clear something up right now, brother. Worshipping a woman doesn't make her love you. If anything, it usually does the opposite. You see, somewhere along the line, a lot of good men were taught this lie. That if you put her on a pedestal, if you agree with everything she says, if you never push back, if you shower her with attention, compliments, and endless approval, then she'll see you as the one. But let's be honest. Have you ever gone all in too fast? told her how amazing she was before even knowing her deeply, treated her like a queen while neglecting your own worth in the process, and then watched as her interest slowly faded? It's frustrating, confusing, even heartbreaking, because in your mind, you were doing everything right. You were being kind, respectful, available. You were being the man she should want. But here's the harsh truth. Women don't want to be worshipped. They want to be challenged in the right way. I'm not talking about being arrogant, cold, or combative. I'm talking about being a man who stands in his truth, who knows his value, and who won't fold just to win approval. Because when you treat her like she's above you, you're sending a subtle message. I'm not enough unless you validate me. And no matter how nice your words are, that energy, it weakens you. It takes you out of your masculine core and places all the power in her hands. Here's what women actually crave. A man who sees her clearly, but isn't hypnotized. A man who appreciates her beauty, but isn't obsessed. A man who listens, but also leads. She wants a man who can look her in the eye and say, I care about you deeply, but I won't betray my values just to keep you happy. That's the kind of man she respects. That's the kind of man she desires. Why? Because women don't grow from comfort. They grow from connection and contrast. And when you challenge her not to hurt her, but to help her rise, you activate something primal in her. The desire to earn your love. To rise with you, not above you. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how women chase the guy who doesn't always give in? Who can make her laugh, but also call her out? Who celebrates her, but doesn't pedestal her? That's not by accident. That's polarity. That's the natural attraction between a grounded masculine energy and an emotionally expressive feminine one. When you stop challenging her, when you just agree, comply, and accommodate, she stops feeling you. Not because you're bad, but because the dynamic has gone flat. Attraction needs a pulse. It needs tension. It needs growth. And the truth is, the right woman doesn't want you to idolize her. She wants you to inspire her. She wants to feel that you see through the performance, that you'll hold her to a higher standard not because you're judging her, but because you believe in who she could become. This is why strong women are drawn to strong men. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Men who won't back down just to avoid conflict. Men who say no when it matters. Men who make her reflect, evolve, and not just feel adored. So brother, ask yourself, do you challenge her in a way that sharpens her character? Or do you constantly seek to please, hoping she won't walk away? Because when you worship her, you put her on a throne she didn't ask for. But when you challenge her with love, you invite her to grow next to you. And that's where real intimacy begins. Not in flattery, not in fear, but in fire. The fire of truth. The fire of leadership. The fire of a man who doesn't need to be chosen, because he chooses himself first. And when you carry that energy, she won't just stay. She'll rise with you. Number 7, being needed doesn't mean being wanted. Let's draw a line that most men never see until it's too late. Being needed is not the same as being wanted. And the moment you confuse the two, you open the door to one of the most painful dynamics a man can experience. Being used but never truly chosen. You might have been there. You're the guy she leans on when she's struggling. You're the one who picks up the phone at 2 a.m. You help her move, calm her down after a breakup, give advice when she's spiraling. And maybe, deep down, a part of you hopes, if I just keep being there for her, eventually she'll see how good I am. She'll fall for me. But let me be brutally honest, brother. Need is not desire. Support is not seduction. And being her emotional crutch doesn't mean she ever truly wanted you. Because here's what you need to understand. Need comes from circumstance. Want comes from feeling. Need says, you solve my problems. Want says, I'm drawn to you even when everything's fine. And there's a massive difference between a man who is useful and a man who is irresistible. One is chosen out of convenience. The other is chosen out of desire. You see, when a woman only turns to you during her low moments when she's stressed, sad, lonely, or emotionally broken, that's not romance, that's recovery. You're filling a gap, not sparking a fire. And the more you attach your worth to her reliance on you, the more you'll shrink into the role of her fixer. Instead of rising as the man she wants to follow, think of it like this. A fireman is needed when a house is burning. But once the fire is out, he leaves. He's not invited to stay, because he served a function, not a connection. So ask yourself, is she calling because she genuinely enjoys your energy, your presence, your essence? Or is she calling because she doesn't know where else to turn? That distinction is everything. Now don't get it twisted. There's nothing wrong with being a strong, supportive man. That's part of your masculine core. But when your sense of value is built entirely on being needed, you become addicted to dysfunction. You start chasing women in chaos. You wait for her to be in pain so you can prove your worth. And in doing so, you keep attracting relationships where you're useful but never wanted. A high-value man doesn't seek to be needed. He's not out here trying to save women from themselves. He builds himself to the point where his presence alone is magnetic. Not because he solves problems, but because he awakens emotion. That's the man she chooses, not just calls in a crisis. Because deep down, a woman doesn't want to be rescued. She wants to be seen. She wants to be met by a man who doesn't try to fix her, but who challenges her to rise. And that man? He's not available 24/7. He doesn't say yes to everything. He doesn't base his self-worth on how many people lean on him. He builds his life around purpose, not people-pleasing. And when someone wants access to him, they earn it through connection, depth, and mutual desire. So, brother, here's the shift. Don't just ask, does she need me? Ask, would she still choose me if she didn't? Would she call if she weren't falling apart? Would she want to be close even when things are good? Because being needed is about function, but being wanted is about feeling. And the men who stop trying to be essential and start learning how to be impactful, they're the ones who get chosen, not just used. Number 8, the less you react, the more she feels. Let's talk about something that's rarely taught, but instantly felt. The power of a man's calm, his stillness, his ability to not react. Most men think that the way to connect with a woman is to mirror her emotions. If she gets upset, you get upset. If she cries, you panic. If she's spinning out, you feel like you need to fix it fast. But let me offer you something deeper. The more emotionally reactive you are, the less emotionally safe she feels. Because feminine energy isn't looking for emotional chaos to mirror her. It's looking for a container to ground her. She doesn't want you to match her storm. She wants to feel your stillness inside it. Think of it like this. When she's spinning, testing, expressing, what she's unconsciously searching for is a man who won't break. Not a man who gets cold. Not a man who shuts down. But a man who can hold space. With presence, with clarity, without the need to jump in and do something. That's what builds emotional trust. That's what makes her nervous system relax. That's what makes her say, there's something about him I can't explain, but I feel safe around him. Now, a lot of guys here don't react, and they think it means be emotionless. But there's a big difference between being cold and being composed. Coldness pushes people away. Composure invites them in. When you stop reacting to every emotional wave she throws, when you stop explaining yourself every time she tests your boundaries, when you allow silence to exist without filling it out of discomfort, You communicate something powerful. I'm solid. I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere just because emotions got loud. That level of masculine containment? That's rare. And women feel it instantly. Because in today's world, most men are either too reactive or too distant. They either try too hard to fix every feeling, or they shut down completely, hoping to avoid emotional storms. But the grounded man? He's different. He's still. He listens more than he speaks. He observes before he acts. He holds space without needing to dominate it. And ironically, it's the man who says the least, who often makes her feel the most. Because when you're not always reacting, she gets to feel her own emotions fully. She gets to trust that you're not shaken by her chaos. She gets to drop into her feminine because your masculine presence is anchored. This is where true polarity is born. Not in loud declarations, not in proving how strong or alpha you are, but in the moments you don't flinch, when you let the silence speak, when your eyes say, "I'm not going to run," so the next time she tests your patience, raises her voice, challenges your stance. Don't immediately defend. Don't explain. Don't escalate. Just pause. Breathe. Be still. That pause, that moment of grounded silence, it's more powerful than 100 words. Because it says, I lead myself. I don't need your mood to determine my state. I'm not afraid of your fire, I can hold it. That, brother, is attractive. Not in a flashy, performative way, but in a deeply primal, emotionally magnetic way. Women don't just want a man who reacts. They want a man who regulates, who contains, who leads with energy, not emotional chaos. So if you want her to feel more, start reacting less. Not because you don't care, but because you care from depth, not desperation. Let your silence speak. Let your stillness lead. And watch how she softens. Not because you told her to, but because she feels you. Number 9. If she doesn't have to earn you, she won't value you. Let's talk about one of the biggest truths men overlook in dating and relationships. The easier you are to get, the less she'll value you. I know it sounds harsh, especially if you were raised to be generous, giving, emotionally available. And don't get me wrong, those traits aren't wrong. But when you give them too freely, without boundaries, without standards, without requiring anything in return, you don't come across as loving. You come across as desperate. You see, we don't value what we don't earn. And that's not just a female thing. That's human nature. Whether it's money, success, fitness, or love, we value what costs us something. Time, energy, risk, intention. So if you're handing out your time, attention, commitment, even intimacy without discernment, you're robbing her of the one thing that builds true respect: effort. You're teaching her that you're easy to win, that your attention isn't exclusive, that your heart isn't guarded by standards, but open to anyone who shows you a little affection. And here's the kicker. If she doesn't have to work to keep you, she'll eventually walk away from you. Not because she's cruel, not because she's ungrateful, but because you made it too easy. You didn't ask her to rise. You didn't make her earn your consistency. You gave her boyfriend-level commitment at hello. You gave your weekends, your focus, your emotions without ever seeing if she was even worthy of them. And look, this isn't about playing games or being emotionally distant. This is about having standards. This is about being a man of value, not just a man of availability. Let me ask you this. Would you respect a job that hired you without an interview? Would you value a trophy you didn't compete for? Would you admire a mountain you didn't have to climb? Exactly. So why are you giving away yourself, the most valuable thing you own, without requiring anything in return? Women, especially feminine women, respect challenge. Not drama, not difficulty. But standards, they want to feel like they earned your time. That they had to show up with integrity, not just beauty. That they had to listen, engage, invest, not just flirt. Because when she earns you, she cherishes you. She protects the connection. She fights for your attention. She shows up fully because she knows she's not entitled to you. But when you're too easy, when you give more than she's earned, she feels it. It doesn't feel like love. It feels like lack. Like you're trying to buy her affection. Like you're afraid to lose her. Like you don't see your own value, so you're hoping she does. And brother, that energy, that's not attractive. That's not stoic. That's not masculine. So here's the shift. Live by your standards, not her expectations. If you value deep communication, don't tolerate surface-level attention. If you value loyalty, don't ignore red flags just because she's hot. If you value your time, don't give it away to someone who doesn't respect it. Make her earn the version of you that's fully invested. Not as a punishment, but as a filter. Because the right woman wants to earn it. She wants to rise to meet your level. She wants to feel that she's building something with you, not just being handed something by you. So stop fearing that high standards will push her away. Because if they do, she was never the one to begin with. But the woman who's meant for you, she'll respect you more for your boundaries. She'll desire you more because she earned your presence. And she'll cherish you deeply because she worked for it. And in that space, you stop being an option and start being a prize. Number 10. Emotional detachment is a man's superpower. Let's talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough credit in today's world. Something that, when mastered, makes you unshakable as a man. Emotional detachment. Now, before you misunderstand, I'm not saying suppress your emotions. I'm not telling you to be cold, numb, or disconnected. Detachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. It's the ability to feel something deeply without being controlled by it. And that's rare, because let's face it, most people are reactive. They hear something they don't like, and they snap. They feel insecure, so they chase. They get hurt, and they lash out or shut down. But the man who can observe his emotions, pause, and choose his response, that man is dangerous in the best possible way. He's not ice cold. He's not emotionally absent. He's just unshakable. And in a world where everyone's trying to pull reactions out of you, that kind of stability becomes powerful. Let me break it down for you. When you're emotionally reactive, you become predictable. You're easy to manipulate. Someone triggers you, you explode. Someone rejects you, you collapse. Someone disrespects you, you beg for validation. But when you're emotionally detached in the Stoic sense, you create space between stimulus and response. You don't react, you respond. And that calm presence, that's what sets you apart from average men. Women feel it instantly. Because masculine energy isn't chaotic, it's grounded. It's not swayed by moods or validation. It's not thrown off course by rejection, drama, or emotional volatility. It holds firm. Now you might be wondering, but won't I seem distant or uncaring if I don't react emotionally? The answer is no. Not if your detachment is rooted in strength, not avoidance. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't collapse. You can love her and still walk away if your values are crossed. You can listen to her storm and still remain rooted in clarity. You can feel pain and still move with purpose. That's what real strength looks like. And women respect it. Because while she might test your emotions, what she's really testing is your center. Can you stay grounded when she throws fire? Can you hold space without needing to fix, defend, or chase? If the answer is yes, you become magnetic. You become the calm she didn't know she needed. You become the anchor that makes her feel safe. And here's the deeper truth. No one can control a man who controls himself. Not the world, not her emotions, not your own ego. That's what Stoic masculinity is about. Not repressing emotion, but transcending it. Not being passive, but choosing power over impulse. Vision over chaos. Truth over comfort. So how do you start building this superpower? 1. Practice the pause. Every time you feel triggered, breathe. Don't react. Just watch. Most men are slaves to their emotions because they never slow down long enough to witness them. 2. Detach from outcomes. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need every woman to like you. What matters is who you are, not how people respond to you. 3. Lead with values, not emotion. When your decisions come from principle, not mood, you earn respect from others and from yourself. So, brother, if you want to be truly powerful, if you want to lead, attract, and live like the highest version of yourself, don't just master your skills, master your state. Because when you stop reacting, you start leading. And when your presence is rooted in stillness, not chaos, you don't just walk into a room, you command it. Number 11. Women don't fall in love with logic. They fall for emotional states. Let me tell you something most men never fully grasp. Women don't fall in love with your resume. They don't fall in love because you check every box. Stable job, kind heart, good manners, a plan for the future. They might respect you for that. They might admire you. But love? Real, soul deep, can't stop thinking about you kind of love? That comes from something else entirely. Women fall for how you make them feel in your presence. Not feel safe in the basic surface level sense, but emotionally awakened, seen, felt, understood without needing to explain a thing. Think about it. Have you ever heard a woman say, "I don't know what it is about him, but I just couldn't let go"? That's not logic talking. That's her nervous system remembering the emotional state he brought her into. You see, every woman might have a list of what she thinks she wants. But what she truly falls for is the man who gives her access to a version of herself she can't reach alone. The man who doesn't just impress her but moves her. And here's the paradox. You could be everything she ever asked for on paper, but if you don't make her feel something deeper, excitement, peace, mystery, grounding, she'll slowly drift away. Not because you're not enough, but because emotion is the currency of her connection. So what does that mean for you, brother? It means stop trying to win her mind with logic and strategies. Start learning how to lead her into a space of feeling. Create moments of stillness where she feels safe to be soft. Moments of spontaneity that spark her aliveness. Moments of depth where she realizes, "I've never felt this scene before." Because when you can give a woman that kind of emotional state, she won't just remember you. She'll feel you long after you've left the room. And that, right there, is what makes a man unforgettable. Number 12. The energy you radiate speaks louder than anything you say. Let's get one thing straight, brother. Women don't just listen to what you say. They feel you. They read your energy like a second language. No matter how carefully you craft your words, it's your presence, your emotional state that speaks the loudest. You ever tried to act confident when deep down you were nervous, insecure, or afraid of losing her? Yeah, she picked up on it, even if she didn't say anything. Women are emotionally attuned. They notice the tension in your shoulders, the hesitation in your eye contact, the neediness behind your compliments. That's why you don't need to say much to be deeply attractive. When your energy is calm, grounded, and self-owned, when you walk into a room already knowing who you are and not needing to prove anything, she feels that. She relaxes around it. Because you're not trying to impress, you're just being, and that's rare. In a world full of men trying to be liked, trying to be chosen, trying to get something from her, the man who is already full within himself stands out. Not because he's flashy, but because he's real. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone who didn't have to speak much, but their presence filled the room? That's not magic. That's inner alignment. That's self-mastery. That's a man whose energy is clean, free from neediness, free from manipulation, free from fear. Women feel that. They can't always explain it, but they respond to it. Because feminine energy isn't drawn to words, it's drawn to resonance. And when your internal state is steady, unapologetic, and clear, you become that resonance. So stop trying to convince her. Stop over-explaining. Stop performing. Start cultivating the one thing that can't be faked: your energy. Because energy doesn't lie. If you're anxious, pretending to be cool, she feels the gap. If you're grounded, centered, and at peace with who you are, she melts into that space. That's how real attraction happens. That's how leadership in love is built, not by talking louder, but by being quieter and still being felt. In the end, the most powerful man in the room isn't the one who dominates the conversation. It's the one who owns his silence, because he's already at peace within himself. Let's get one thing clear, brother. What you just heard isn't a list of tricks. This isn't some pickup strategy or a shortcut to get a woman to chase you. This is a map. A map to becoming the kind of man women respect, feel magnetically drawn to, and most importantly, the kind of man you can be proud of when no one's watching. Because real masculine power, it doesn't come from trying to be chosen. It comes from choosing yourself first. It's not about bending to fit into her world. It's about building your own with purpose, with presence, with principles, and letting her choose to walk alongside you. See, a lot of men are trapped in this endless loop of seeking approval. They try to say the right things, be the nice guy, avoid conflict, prove their worth through effort. But that mindset always leaves you chasing love, chasing respect, chasing someone else's validation to feel like you're enough. And the truth is, you'll never feel like enough until you stop asking for permission to exist. The shift happens when you stop trying to be lovable and start becoming undeniably self-led. When you stop proving and start embodying. When you stop asking, "Am I what she wants?" and start asking, "Am I living by what I value?" That's when everything changes. That's when you stop attracting women who use you and start attracting women who rise with you. Because here's the deeper truth. Women don't follow perfection. They follow conviction. They follow the man who moves with clarity, who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't perform for attention, but radiates presence effortlessly. That's the kind of man who doesn't chase love. He draws it in, not with games, but with gravitational depth. And when you build yourself from the inside out, when your values are unshakable, your emotions are grounded, and your time is earned, not handed out, you stop being one of many and become irreplaceable. Because now, you're not just a man who wants love. You're a man who commands respect, who lives with soul, not strategy, and who shows up not to be accepted, but to lead. So let this be the moment, brother. The moment you stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and start declaring, "This is who I am and I don't shrink for anyone." That's the birth of masculine sovereignty. That's what draws women toward you, not because they have to, but because they feel it in their bones. So take this with you. When you stop begging for love and start living from your values, you don't become more attractive, you become unforgettable. Share this with someone who needs it today. And if you found a sense of peace in this message, follow us to keep receiving ancient wisdom for modern life. Thank you for being part of Ancient Stoic Secrets.